Welcome back. Today I want to do a general reading update with you all. Over the last few months, I really haven't had the time or energy or focus to read as much as I normally do. A lot of that has been because of my health struggles. I've also just had a lot of big life changes happening, going on short-term disability, moving in with Jess. This all has taken my focus. But around mid-May, things started to change. By that time, I was officially off work, Jess and I had gotten settled into the new apartment, and I found myself finally having the time and focus for self-care things like reading. This has been amazing. So I feel like I'm finally coming out of this multi-month reading slump. I'm really diving into all of these books I'm excited about. As I mentioned in my last video, I set up a new reading challenge for myself. I'm getting excited. I'm not going to go over all of the books that I read at the end of May. I honestly just don't have the drive for it right now, but I do always have my Goodreads page linked down in the description box, so you can always go and check that out if you're curious about the things that I've read here and there over the last few months. There are two books from May that I did want to mention though, the first of which is the s'more sci-fi pick from May, which was Foundation by Isaac Asimov. I was really excited to read this one because I've never read Asimov before, so this was kind of my first step into his writing. I wasn't disappointed with it, but it wasn't quite as fun as I expected it to be. I did, however, really enjoy some of the themes that tied through the different stories. I'm really curious to see how the story progresses because it is a trilogy, and then there are actually some additional prequels and sequels that he wrote like decades later. So I'm really curious to finish the trilogy at least, which this is actually the full trilogy in one. So I'll probably do that at some point soon and to see where it goes. But I gave this one a 3 on Goodreads. I would say it's technically a 3.5 for me, and I would encourage anyone to read it who is curious. This next book I wanted to talk about because it's part of the bookshelf reading challenge that I mentioned in my video from earlier this week, and that is Within the Sanctuary of Wings by Marie Brennan. This is the 5th and final book in her Memoirs of Lady Trent series. This series is set in a fantasy world which is very much based on our own world in Victorian times, except that there are also dragons. The dragons are kind of bestial. They aren't like the wise sentient creatures from Lord of the Rings or what have you. Lady Trent is our main character, and she has always been extremely fascinated by dragons and wants to study them as a natural historian. However, Victorian times. So Victorian society tells her she cannot because she's a lady, and how could she possibly do that with her fragile lady body and brain? She says, screw you, I'm going to anyway, and finds ways to go off on these adventures to study dragons. On a feminist front, these books are very spot on. There is a whole thing where she's dealing with a lack of maternal instincts and the way that society frowns upon her for that, and the ways that they look at her for going off and studying dragons if she has a child. Also, they actually mention periods and being someone who menstruates and being out on an adventure in the wilderness and stuff. These are things that don't come up as often in fantasy books, but are important and that I appreciate. The downside of these books is that because it's based on a sort of Victorian era British society, it does have a lot of colonialism, and the attitudes towards Indigenous people are not what they should be. I am embarrassed to say that when I started reading these books, I was so enamored by the feminist themes in the books and the way that just Lady Trent handles all of that stuff that I didn't even pick up on the blatant colonialism and the really cruddy way in which they were referring to some of the Indigenous folk. So when I finally clued into that, it kind of brought down my excitement a bit and led to me putting off reading this one for a good year or more, even though I pre-ordered it and got it as soon as it came out. Now that I've actually picked it up and read it, I'm really glad I did, because I do still really enjoy this series, and I did think that they wrapped it up in a good way. There was one part that I had a hard time suspending my disbelief on, and I really can't say anything about it without spoiling a huge premise in the book. But besides that one thing, I did really enjoy the book overall. Yeah, I thought it was a good way to wrap up the series, and I would recommend this one to anyone who wants to check it out, given the caveats that I've thrown out there. I ended up giving this one a 4-star rating on Goodreads. Okay, moving on to my current reads. I have 2 books that I'm working on at the moment, and I'm actually doing buddy reads on both of them. So the first one I'm buddy reading with Frankie from Frankie Reads, and that is The Dragon Keeper by Robin Hobb, and this is the first book in her Rainwild Chronicles series. If you're not familiar with the order of Robin Hobb books, first it's the Farseer trilogy, and then the Lifeship Traders trilogy, then the Tawny Man trilogy, and then the Rainwild Chronicles series. So this is several series in, and it does pick up after the events of the earlier series. So I would suggest reading those earlier trilogies before you jump into this one. I am currently about 150 pages in, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm so excited to be back into Hobb's world of the Elderlings. I just love her writing. I love her books. I love this world. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen in these books. So we will see. The second book I'm currently reading, I'm doing a buddy read on with my girlfriend Jess, and that is A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers. This is the second book in her Wayfarers series, the first being A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, which I completely, utterly, entirely adored. I'm so excited to read this one. I've actually heard that some people like this one even better than the first one, which is hard to believe, but I have high hopes now. So yeah, I am just getting started with this one. I'm only about 30 pages or so in, but it's going to be great. I have a feeling. So I'll keep you posted on that. And on to the rest of my June TBR. So first off is the pick for some more sci-fi in June, and this month was a community pick, so you all voted in the Goodreads group, and the winner was The Moon is a Harsh Mistress by Heinlein. I'm really excited because I've never read Heinlein, and I don't actually have a copy of this book just yet, but I'm going to be going to Pals this weekend specifically to pick one up. So fingers crossed that they have a copy with a pretty cover, because that's the goal. Then June is of course Pride Month, so I picked out a few books to celebrate that. I am planning on participating in the Queer Lit Readathon, which is taking place during the second week of June, I believe. I think it starts on the 6th. There's a video about it though, and I will post it up top and down below so you can get the actual details. But I have 3 books picked out that I wanted to try and get to this month that would all be appropriate for that. The first one is called Daughter of Mystery by Heather Rose Jones, and I was actually given this one by Jess. It's a romance novel. Back in February, we thought it would be cute to give each other romance novels for Valentine's Day. We jinxed, as we often do, where we get on the same wavelength and we just do the same thing, and we both specifically sought out romance novels that featured a relationship between 2 female characters. So this is the book that I got from Jess, and I'm very excited to check it out. Next I have Passing Strange by Ellen Klages. I think that's how you say it, Klages. If not, I'm sorry. This is set in 1940 San Francisco, and it follows a group of women. There are relationships between them. They're in the queer community of the time, so we're kind of seeing both the harsh homophobic laws of the 1940s as well as the way that the community bands together in order to deal with that and get through their lives. Somehow magic comes into play. I'm not sure, but I've heard really great things about this in general. It also has a blurb on the front from Anne Leckie, which makes me excited. And I think this was at least nominated for some award. I don't know. That's a vague thing to say, but I'm pretty excited about it. It's also really short, so I'm sure I will be able to easily get through it in the Queer Lit Readathon week. Next, I have a book that is actually from my most anticipated science fiction shelf, which is one of the shelves I'm trying to work my way through for my bookshelf reading challenge, and that is The Stars Are Legion by Kameron Hurley. This is also the book referred to often as Lesbians in Space. It's a space opera, lesbians in space, Kameron Hurley. That's pretty much all I needed to hear before I bought it. So I'm really excited to read this one, and I will probably also be doing a buddy read on this one with Jess whenever we end up getting to it, because she also has a copy and it sounds like the kind of thing we would enjoy reading together. Then I'm super excited because the next Mary Russell novel is due to come out in June. This is a series I've been obsessed with for quite a while. It's by Laurier King. It follows Sherlock Holmes and the main character, Mary Russell, who becomes his apprentice, and we see their relationship develop, and they go on all these adventures and mysteries and blah, blah, blah. It's fantastic. I love it. And this next one is coming out. It's called Island of the Mad. I don't even remember what the premise is. I just know it's Mary Russell, it's coming out soon, and I'm gonna read it as soon as I can. So I have this one pre-ordered for the Kindle edition because I have a specific paperback collection going on with the books, so I'm gonna wait to buy the physical copy until it's out in that edition, but I'm definitely going to be getting my hands on the Kindle version as soon as I can, and I will probably be reading that later this month. Alright, so that is my June TBR, that's what I'm reading right now, and that's a little bit of what I read last month. I would love to know down in the comments what you guys are reading, if you've read any of these books and what you think about them. Are you excited for the next Mary Russell novel? Are you reading any books for Pride Month? Are you going to be joining in on the Queer Lit Readathon? Or are you going to be joining in on the Ghostwriter 18 Ghost Story Writing Contest? It's starting today. I'm very excited, and I have videos about that you should go watch if you haven't watched them. Let me know all the things, and thank you all so much for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. I hope you all are having a wonderful week so far, and I will talk to you soon. Bye!